understand this is not a Ronnie Corbett tribute act. My eyes are tired. I'm wearing my glasses. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer Ole Gunnar Solskjaer chasing 2 strikers in January are the reports today. Is Anthony Martial's future in danger at Manchester United? We'll also be talking about Matic potentially leaving. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's position at Manchester United strengthened with the results over the last week or so, and even yesterday. Pogba's return and a lot more. We'll also be taking some of your calls, but let's fly straight into it. Manchester United clearly in the race for Erling Haaland. I think the comments of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer yesterday firmed that up. And we would, what I would say about this is I fully expect us to sign Erling Haaland. David Ornstein is a very good ex-BBC journalist who has mentioned that United are in for him as well. There's still the story coming in from Germany about Dortmund and Mino Raiola preferring Haaland to go to Juventus. But I do feel that if Manchester United were not to make this signing now, we would end up with egg on our face, which is probably a little bit what I look like wearing glasses, to be honest with you. But we probably will. We probably will. So I expect that to be done. But the interesting news today, and I would take it with not a pinch of salt, a bag of salt, is that Jovic, the former Eintracht Frankfurt striker, who's now gone to Real Madrid and has not settled, and Zidane himself has said he's struggling to give him game time. Manchester United have apparently asked to be informed if he becomes available. He was ridiculously prolific in Germany. I think the Premier League would have suited him better, to be honest with you. And look, what I want to go with this is, what's your opinions on Anthony Martial at the moment? I mean, I don't think we're going to sign Jovic and Haaland, but you go with what the stories are. But I think definitely Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is looking for a striker. And I think it's very, very sad. I think it's very, very sad against Anthony Martial what a lot of people are saying about this. Because, look, what I want to say is this, right? On the weekend, we had a United player coming out saying, I'm suffering with things off the pitch. We've all said he's crap for 8 months. He was absolutely crap yesterday. But everyone's given him that little bit of leeway because he's suffering with problems off the pitch, which is correct. Those same fans are calling Martial lazy and crap this morning. And I'm like, I don't really understand it. And the worst of the lot, and I've always been a Luke Shaw fan. And yesterday and today, everyone's just been going, Luke Shaw's one of the worst left-backs in the league, right? He would have had an assist if Dan James didn't take Lingard's head off. He stopped it going for 2-0 with brilliant positional awareness and blocking of a pass that would have put somebody in 2-on-1. He got forward way more than Aaron Wan-Bissaka did, but suddenly, because the ball went out for a corner and it was his fault, he had a crap game. I mean, how can you blame Luke Shaw for the goal for conceding a corner? Like, the goal, for one, it wasn't a goal, and for two, David De Gea should have done better. So I don't know how Luke Shaw gets the blame, but agendas are agendas. But the worst of the lot is you've got people defending one United player at the weekend because of his issues at home. You got people today calling Luke Shaw fat again. Luke Shaw, right? He's donated 500 hampers from Harrods to the staff from at Carrington. People have been saying, I bet they're all empty. I bet they were all empty because he's ate them all. I think it's disgusting, and I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's so horrible. It's making me laugh. And it is horrible. I love Luke Shaw. He's one of my favourite players, and it's fattest. It's absolutely fattest, and people are saying filth like I bet he's ate all the hampers. I mean, it's just not right. It's just not right. Just compose yourself. We're just so ridiculous as a fan base. We really are. And Alex B says top Reds only want the academy lads to play well. But you know what? It's true, because you cannot, like, what if Luke Shaw has an eating disorder, and I'm saying that dead straight faced, and it comes out that he's got an eating disorder. And then you're all going to be going, like you have done with this other United player at the weekend, oh, let's feel sorry for him. I think it's sad. And look, you know what? Pink boots and Matic, static Matic. Look, I have to hold my hands up and say that, look, I have ridiculed players, but I haven't been like, you can't be pink bootsist, and there's nothing about being donkeyist. And they are very relevant to the way they play football. I just think that we are... I think the Luke Shaw thing is wrong. And I think, you know what? was talking to Flex about this today. Everyone's got a bias. Everyone's got players they like and players they don't like. And the players that they like, they're sometimes blind to things that they do badly because you want them to do well. But I genuinely don't know where people are getting off on Luke Shaw yesterday. I didn't think he had a bad game, but bringing it more relevantly, because we're talking about strikers. And what do you think? Who do you think will sign? What do you think the percentage of us signing Haaland in January? Says Ben McMyler. I'd say about 90%, mate, to be honest. Iqbal Hussein says Ollie plays 2 defensive midfielders against the low block teams and wonders why we can't break them down. Good point. And Ari Guadalia says when Man United has 55% possession or more, 6 draws, 2 losses out of 8 games. I was happy with the results from City and Spurs, but I don't see any progress. I mean, just on that, nothing has changed in Manchester United Football Club. They're still convinced that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the right way to go. They are really happy with what's happening with him bringing youth players through, and obviously they're going to supplement that with signings in the future. And that's been the stance for a long time. And the interesting thing is that Angel Gomez has, who to me, I mean, I just want to say this. I wasn't going to talk about Angel Gomez, but Angel Gomez, there is a growing concern that he will leave Manchester United. And I've got to say, for all the promotion of Greenwood, well, Greenwood's an obvious player to promote because he's an amazing talent. McTominay was already promoted. Rashford was already promoted. So Brandon Williams, yeah, that's a positive. Garner. But Gomez and Chong, for me, were 2 players that I really am disappointed as to what's happened with them. And I also think with Gomez as well, his is even worse because United have rotated Pereira, Mata and Lingard in that number 10 role, and it fits in with what I'm about to say with Martial, and they've been absolutely atrocious as a 3. I mean, I can't even out one of them. They're all collectively terrible in that position, and there's a player in Angel Gomez who can play that role, and he's not been given any time in it. You know, any time we've seen Angel Gomez, he's mainly played as a left winger. So I've said this about Angel Gomez, whatever you think about his height or his talent, we saw him on the tour in the summer, score a great individual goal against, who was it against? Was it Inter Milan? And, you know, he is ready to play. We should have loaned him in the summer. That was Ollie's mistake. We didn't loan him because he was ready, and then we've not played him. And if I was Gomez, I probably would think I'm off somewhere else, because I tell you what, the sort of talent he is, if he was at Barcelona, he would have played by now. And that's the problem. United are going to lose a player there that could go off and be fantastic. And I think that's a real shame. Neil Coelho says Luke Shaw is 25 and way more experienced than Wan-Bissaka. Shaw should be doing way better. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is defensively strong. Shaw isn't good at attack or defence. Well, I disagree with you, mate, but thanks for your comment. I totally disagree with you. I don't know what you're on about, that age comes into it. I really don't think age comes into it at all. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a brilliant defensive right-back. I think he's crap going forward. I think he's the best defensive right-back in Europe. I think he's crap going forward. I think Luke Shaw is not as good defensively as Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but he's way better going forward. He's a more balanced player. I've never had a problem with Luke Shaw, and people think I'm obsessed with Luke Shaw, but I haven't. I think he's a good left-back. I think Chilwell's better, but I'm very happy with Luke Shaw, and I just think people have a total agenda with him. But talking about agendas, I want to talk about Anthony Martial. Where do you stand on Anthony Martial? Because young to leave United, says Gordon Murray. Yes. Luke Shaw is quality and always will be. Martial got no service against Everton. His touch is second to none, says Matt Rush. Well, let's take on the Martial point. We'll talk about Young and Matic leaving in a moment. But to talk about this, now Anthony Martial, I'm stunned by a lot of what I was reading last night, and I put a couple of tweets out on my @MarkGoldbridge account because I saw people going, Martial's lazy, Martial's crap, Martial is, you know, he doesn't run around enough, he doesn't hold the ball up. And then Ryan Giggs said it, and I was like, well, I've already committed to what I'd said on Twitter before I saw what Ryan Giggs said this morning. So, as much as I respect Ryan Giggs, I've got to be honest, ex-player or not, I don't necessarily think your opinion is any better than a football fan's. I don't, and that's something I stand by on this channel. And people can say you're an idiot, he manages Wales, he's an ex-legend, whatever. I've said the same about Neville, Scholes. They are legends of the club. I absolutely love them, but I tell you what, I stick by what this channel is all about. I value fan opinion, and I totally disagree with. I almost feel like people aren't watching the game in relation to Anthony Martial, because to say he was lazy yesterday, to say he wasn't holding the ball up, to say he wasn't getting others into play, I'm like, how did you watch the game? Did you watch the time over on the corner against Leighton Baines when Martial had 2 players on him and he won the free kick? Like, he was up against, basically isolated yesterday with no support at all. I don't think Dan James has actually played well for United for about a month, by the way. But nobody ever says anything about Dan James because, it's Dan James, isn't it? But Martial, a bad game apparently, and everybody jumps on him, even though he's been doing his job fantastically well for United. He was brilliant against Man City last week. He's been brilliant for us numerous times. But one little sniff of a chance to have a go at Martial, and the press and everybody else jumps on him because they don't like him. They don't like him. They have an agenda with him. And he gets called lazy all the time. And the connotations of that, I think, are disgusting. But I don't want to make the show about that. But I think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Martial is the best player we've got with his back to goal. Rashford is awful at it. Rashford is best off the left wing, and he's in the form of his life. But you put Rashford up front, he's a waste of space. And the best thing I love about this, out of anything, is this: Martial gets called lazy, right? When Rashford was playing up front, a lot of you were saying he looks disinterested. But Rashford on the left-hand side can't stop running. Have you ever considered that when you play as a number 9, you play totally different to anybody else on the pitch because most of the time you are facing your team with your back to goal. If you're playing on the wings, you're looking forward. If you're playing at number 10, you're mainly getting an opportunity to spin. If you're playing in the midfield, you're looking forward. If you're number 9, you play most of your game, especially in a United team, looking at the rest of your team with your back to goal. It's a psychological thing for some fans that they think because you're facing the wrong way, you are being lazy. And go back to the games where Rashford was awful at the start of the season as a number 9, and you'll see the same lack of movement, the same comments where people are saying Rashford looks disinterested. Does Rashford look disinterested on the left wing? No, because he's running at people, he's got a chance to run forward. But I refute the fact that Martial wasn't holding the ball up yesterday. I thought he was. I refute the fact that Anthony Martial wasn't working hard yesterday. I thought he did. I totally disagree with anybody saying that he's lazy and disinterested. The biggest issue that Manchester United have is what I'm about to tell you now. We have no midfield, and we can't be hypocrites about this. We said in the summer that midfield's not good enough, and now when our front three... Look, you know what? I've said this on Twitter today. You put Harry Kane or Sergio Aguero, they'll be dehydrated like a California raisin up front as well, starved of service. It's not rocket science. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer exactly knows what to do in case of signings and bringing the club forward. We desperately need 1 to 2 playmakers to get points from weaker teams, says Turbitoon. Exactly. If we get Poch in the summer, then Ollie's good transition, but Ollie's never for the permanent job. Why are people surprised Ollie is not tactically adequate, says Leo Man United. And Gordon Murray says, might we be playing 2 CDMs because Ollie doesn't think that there's any single player, Fred or McTominay, to command that role on their own? I'll tell you what, very, very quickly on that, I think we're playing 2 centre defensive midfielders because we haven't got 2 attacking midfielders. If you think about it, last season we had Matic sitting on his own, Herrera box to box, and Pogba box to box with more attacking licence. At the moment, how could you play anything more than, all right, McTominay sits. Is Fred going to do the box to box role? I don't know whether he can. Lingard, Mata, Pereira, they're just not good enough. But that brings me to my point. If you stuck Martial, Rashford and James in front of Liverpool's midfield, or Man City's midfield, or Chelsea's midfield, they'd score a lot more goals. If you stick Man City's front 3 of Sterling, Silva and Bernardo Silva and Aguero, or Liverpool's front 3 of Mane, Salah and Firmino in front of our midfield, they'd be crap. And I think that's what people don't understand. They're living in the FIFA generation. I don't care if our midfield's rubbish. Anthony Martial should be juggling the balls on his cock, spinning it around with a blindfold, going past 4 players and nodding it in with his nose. It's ridiculous. You cannot do it. Marcus Rashford's in the form of his life. He couldn't do anything yesterday because Everton defended well and we don't create chances. But no, Martial's lazy. Hypocrites, idiots, not got a clue about watching a game of football because Marcus Rashford was doing exactly the same thing in September and October when Martial was injured. Marcus Rashford goes to the left wing, suddenly he's in the form of his life. Martial's up front. He's way better at it than Martial, he's way better at it than Rashford, but sometimes he struggles because of the lack of creativity that we have in our midfield. But no, we ignore the lack of creativity in our midfield and all go in on Martial and call him lazy, like the stereotypical word that always gets associated with our black foreign players, unfortunately. And I think it's wrong. It's always Pogba, it's always Martial, and it's always the media, and they're always calling them lazy. And I don't see the same thing associated with Marcus Rashford. I don't see the same thing associated with other players, and I think it's wrong. And even can see that it's always Martial and Pogba who get levelled at being lazy, and it is wrong. It is wrong. We are far better with Martial than without, even if he doesn't score. Strengthening in other positions needs to be the priority. HLC, you're absolutely spot on. We're so better with Martial. The reason that we've been better over these recent weeks is because we've got Martial. We are a better team with Martial in it. Who's the left back you see coming to Manchester United to cover Shaw? I read Young is leaving at the end of the season. Well, Humberto Zamano, I would say Brandon Williams for me. And Charles Crane says, Mark, I think Kai Havertz is perfect for United, but I don't think we'll ever sign him because he's not British. I personally like Martial, but we need a different striker for teams we can break down. I mean, you know what? In relation to that comment, Charles, I would really hope that that we do shock everybody and sign a midfielder in January. Because if we do sign Erling Haaland, what's going to happen? Like, where does I mean, it's a very good point. You've took us into a very good area. If we sign Erling Haaland, where does he play for Manchester United? Does he start games straight away? Does he come into the team straight away? And I think that for me, I mean, would you drop Anthony Martial? Let's spend a minute on that. Would you drop Anthony Martial? DJ Scorpio says, my question to you about Ollie is, you're not saying Ollie out, but you're not saying Ollie lifting a trophy at Manchester United. So what's the purpose of him at the club? Yeah, it's a good point, DJ Scorpio, but me saying Ollie out just piles a load of pressure onto a manager that's you know, that just creates negativity around the club, and I don't really feel like doing that, and I've said that for a while. But also, I will always say what I'll say to you now. It doesn't matter who the manager is. Whilst Ed Woodward is pulling the strings at that football club, which he is, he will strangle any manager. Strings, strangle. You see what I mean? See what I did there? It's true. It wouldn't matter who the manager is. I've already said Pep and Klopp would fail at Manchester United. So for all these people who say, well, if you don't think Ollie's good enough, why aren't you saying Ollie out? I don't think any manager will succeed at Manchester United, because Ed Woodward runs that football club in a footballing sense. And until he's taken away from the footballing matters, which I don't think he will be, he walks around that club like he is the Don of Manchester United. He thinks he's it, and he's not. And I'm not even horrible to the guy here. You're an ex-banker who doesn't know anything about football, and you are running the biggest institution in world football. And whilst you are doing that, calling the shots, telling Mourinho what he can and can't do, telling what Ollie can't do, telling Van Gaal what he can't do. I mean, you can understand it with Moyes and Ollie because they're inexperienced, but Van Gaal and Mourinho are two of the biggest managers in the world at the time when they came to United. And you got Woodward telling them what they can and can't do because he used to be good on a calculator. This is why we're struggling. So yeah, I've got no problem with people saying Ollie out, but the next manager's going to have the same problems as well. McTominay passing versus Everton was very good. He passed forward between the lines to James and Rashford lots yesterday. McTominay's our best midfielder, says Francis Ward. Martial is an inside forward like Rashford, says Dissident Culture. I think he's shown that he can play up front. I think he has. And I think if we were a team that created good chances, you would see a different Martial and a different Pogba, to be honest with you. We're going to sign... I'm just trying to pick up some comments here about Martial. Can't really see anything about Martial. Obviously, people don't really think anything about it. You think if we get Poch, we'll be able to... you think if we get Poch... Oh, God, what's going on with the computer? Martial is top quality. On his future, I think any competitions for spots is good, especially for top quality players, says Daniel Fostness Hansen. I mean, look, what I would say, I've only seen Erling Haaland play a few times, but he's a tall player. He's relatively quick for a tall player, but he's not, you know, his touch leaves a little bit to be desired. And as Anish Joshi says, if Haaland comes in, then United can go back to old 4-4-2 since we don't have a creative midfielder anyway when Pogba leaves. I don't think 4-4-2 in the modern game works. I've got to be absolutely honest with you. I really don't. But look, if we did bring in... Martial needs competition. Every team needs competition, says Magic Eye. I do agree with you on that. Martial is not good enough for Manchester United, says ISR. I'd love you to tell us why, and I'd love you to rank Martial in our current squad, because if Martial, to be honest with you, if Martial's not good enough, mate, then 99% of that squad's not good enough, because he's one of our top 3 players in that squad. So if Martial's not good enough, we may as well pack up and go home, because he is one of our 3 best players at that club by a very, very long way. But if Haaland comes to the club in the way that we are set up at the moment, I think we're going to struggle, because he's a tall striker. He's a bit of a target man. He's good he's a good finisher. But how are we going to play to a player like that? We bought Harry Maguire for £80 million, and we are unable to find him. And it's Christmas. You know, I cannot believe it's Christmas and Harry Maguire has not scored from a corner or a set piece. This is a player who's brilliant in the air, and we cannot get the ball on the end of his head. So how are we going to do it with Erling Haaland? Also, Erling Haaland's not going to have the finesse and ability of a Rashford or a Martial to really pound teams on the break like we did against Man City. So Erling Haaland would be a good signing, but I don't know how he's going to fit in with our team if we aren't able to create chances for him. If you've got a tall striker, and we saw it with Lukaku, do we put enough crosses in for a striker like that? No. Do we create enough space chances in the box? When I mean space chances, I'm talking about a striker getting the ball in the penalty box with an opportunity to get a shot off. We don't see that very often for any of our strikers. A lot of our goals are individual brilliance. And you look at Mason Greenwood yesterday, and one thing I would agree with about Martial and Rashford yesterday is that they didn't create a chance out of nothing. And a lot of players don't. But Mason Greenwood's brilliant at creating chances out of nothing. And a lot of our goals come from individual brilliance. You know, if you think about the Man City goal last week that Martial scored, I mean, yeah, Dan James provides the assist, but a lot of that is down to Martial's individual brilliance to make something out of nothing. And Greenwood's done that a few times. So United are really bad at creating goal-scoring chances. And if you watch a team like a City or a Liverpool or even a Chelsea, they create chances. They don't always score them, but they create clear-cut chances for their forwards, and we just don't do that. I think it's so few and far between that we actually create as a team chances. And the biggest problem has been that number 10 position, because we've played the 4-2-3-1 a lot this season, and in that central position where Mata, Pereira, and Lingard have played, I bet if you stacked up the games they've played and the assists they've provided, or even the chances they've created, it would be appalling. And that is the biggest position in this formation that we need to solve. And what are we going to do? We're going to sign a striker, and I agree with it, but you can't keep neglecting that position. It's the glue. There are a lot of similarities with my club, Arsenal and United. At board level, it is fair to say our owners need to sell or act in an ambitious manner, says Varachia. Arsenal and Manchester United are very, very similar. We've got a better team than you. We have, but in relation to the way the clubs are run, there is neither ownership has an obsession to be successful on the pitch. They want to make money and be successful on the pitch. They're not obsessed with being good on the pitch like Liverpool's owners are and like Man City's owners are. If Haaland does come, then whether he gets into the first team straight away or not depends on the situation, the game, and Ollie's tactics for the said game, says Andy Gomez. Well, I agree with you in some point, but I disagree with you on the last bit, because if you're saying it depends on Ollie's tactics for the said game, Ollie's only got one tactic. This is the big problem. Ollie's only got one tactic: soak up pressure and hit on the break. He doesn't have any other tactic. I mean, Erling Haaland would be useful against an Everton or a Sheffield United or an Aston Villa when they're sitting back against us, but you've still got to find him with the creativity. And I think people think Erling Haaland's going to come in and do great. And just think about Lukaku. How many headed goals did Lukaku score? Because we didn't have people to put quality crosses in. So you've still got to create the chances. Luke Valentine says we need a solid holding midfielder to help our defence, and we need an attacking midfielder or Pogba to play 10 to create the chances for our forwards. Yeah, I can't wait to get Pogba back, Luke. Apparently Pogba will be back full training tomorrow. I saw Neil Custis from The Sun having a go at Pogba today because he was at his brother's wedding and he was dancing around, and he said, look at him with his ankle taking the piss out of United and all this negative stuff. Pogba will play for United again. He will not leave in January. I told you that last week. That's from the club. It's not going to happen. He's not going to leave, and he will play again. And I think it's really important that we get him back playing very, very soon. Vandy Candy says it's championship manager tactics. I know what I didn't say. I mean, we do this thing the day after a game now. It's called the breakdown. And sometimes it is a Goldbridge nervous breakdown. But it's called the breakdown, where we look at things where if we win, what Solskjaer got right. If we draw, it was a good draw, what Solskjaer got right. If it was a draw and a bad result, what he got wrong. If we lose, what he got wrong. And yet today was all about what he got wrong, because I thought it was a bad point for us. But has anybody noticed tactically, and I'm really ashamed that I didn't mention it in the show this morning, and do give it a watch if you want to get like the sort of tactical breakdown. Two things for me. One, Why are we zonal marking on corners? We did it against Man City, Otamendi scored. We did it against Everton, and obviously they scored. And somebody said Fred was marking Yerry Mina. Well, he's not marking Yerry Mina because they're man marking. He's marking Yerry Mina because Yerry Mina stood next to Fred, and that's Fred's zonal area. I hate zonal marking. It is ridiculous. Liverpool used to do it for years under, I think it was under Benitez. It's crap, because zonal marking basically means you have a square and that's your area, right, to defend. Man marking, you mark your person and that's your person. Now, if you man mark, you can lose your man, but it's your fault. But if you man mark, you've got the momentum to jump and head the ball away. If you're zonal marking, you stand in your zone and somebody can run into your zone with a running jump and get ahead on you. And that's what happened with the goal yesterday. This is coaching. I don't even think it's Ollie, because Ollie will have coaches for this. But who the hell is telling Manchester United to zonal mark from corners? It's bloody stupid, and it's cost us 2 goals in the last 2 weeks. Shalinda Ray says, is top 4 realistic? Next 3 games equals 3 losses. Ollie gone. I think top 4 is still open because of the situation that we're in, to be honest with you. Jordan Such says, United not buying top quality midfielders is like Arsenal not buying top quality defenders. You can't expect to improve when you don't improve the weakest part of your team. As for Martial, put him in a team that has Kevin De Bruyne in it and he'll be fine. Exactly. I totally agree with you on that one. Ollie hasn't improved in a year. Still losing points to mid and bottom table teams, and people think he can do better. Ollie out, says Iron. Matt Rush. Mark, what is Ollie's reluctance to get a top midfielder? We don't create enough chances. It's plain to see. A top player will transform this team, says Matt Rush. Moho says, our team with Pogba back, McTominay and Fred, with Rashford, Martial and James, were as good as any in the league. We just need to get our game right. We need to have more than one way of playing. It doesn't matter how good you are. And, you know, if you think about Pep's Barcelona with Messi in it, tiki-taka football was very hard to stop. Then you had Inter Milan with Mourinho, who just parked the bus and it stopped it, and they knocked them out. Every system eventually gets worked out, no matter how good it is. Tiki-taka football under Pep took a while for teams to figure out, and they were almost unstoppable. But they got figured out, and they didn't dominate as much anymore. The thing about our tactic is, Ollie's not come up with some super new way of playing that's going to take 2 or 3 years to figure out. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to figure it out. You have a choice against Manchester United. If you're a team from the bottom half of the table, you just sit back and say, try and beat our low block. If you're a team in the top 6, you get arrogant and think, they can sit back if they like, we'll score. And then they get exploited at the back. Ollie's way of playing is not rocket science to beat. He's got to find another way of playing. George Broadway says, you would think United would score loads set pieces if we get Haaland, because we have loads of players over 6 foot. Pogba, Maguire, Rashford, Martial, Haaland, Lindelof, etc. They need to learn to put the ball in the box, says George Broadway. I don't know what we're doing in relation to that. It's poor. And Turbitoon says, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer just don't yet have the opportunity to really change the tactics with these players. I'm just going to tell you one line. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said it a couple of months ago. The money was there in the summer, the right players weren't. Let's not pretend he didn't own up to the fact that he didn't buy players in the summer. Not a nerd, says Mark. What do you think about Paredes and Martinez? Well, one's at Inter, one's at PSG. They would both be welcome at United, but I don't think that they're the sort of players we're going to be looking at, to be honest. I'll be very surprised if we sign anybody of that sort of background, really. I don't think we'll go for any European players other than Haaland. Look at Saricho, an Argentine centre attacking midfielder. Looks decent, thanks, says Ryan Davin. Maybe email Manchester United about that. Also, I just wanted to say as well about yesterday, how many times has Mason Greenwood this season solved the problem for Manchester United? Somebody said to me today, how long do you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be in a job? And I said, well, I think Mason Greenwood is... This is how I rate Mason Greenwood. I think he's so good, he could keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in a job for 3 years. Because if you look at that game Everton yesterday, I don't think we were ever going to score. Never going to score. I mean, we equalised and we still couldn't get, with the momentum, we couldn't create a decent chance. So Mason Greenwood's goal was out of nothing. He picks it up on the edge of the box. There's 3 players in front of him, including the goalkeeper, and he finds the bottom corner. Just ridiculous goal. And he did it again against AZ Alkmaar. And he did it against Rochdale. And he did it against Astana. We could be out of the Carabao Cup. We could be worse off than where we are in the league. And we could be out of the Europa League if it wasn't for Mason Greenwood. In many ways, he's already sort of kept Ollie in a job. And I think he can continue to do that. Because if you've got this is how much I rate Mason Greenwood. Doesn't matter how bad you're playing. If he's on the pitch, he can score a goal out of nothing. which is invaluable. So that's how highly I rate him. And I don't think it's anything tactical to say Mason Greenwood go on the pitch. He should have started the game. We might have won. What did you make of the Europa League draw, says Jordan Search? Well, Jordan, it is on my list to talk about, but you can tell how highly I value this. Club Brugge. I was even thinking about doing a Europa League live draw, and I just couldn't bring myself to take the L and do it. I thought, we're going to get, the only 2 games we could have got that would have been interesting was Sporting Lisbon or Rangers, and, there was a 2 in, 16 chance of getting that, so it's not great percentage-wise. Club Brugge, and it's a good draw. It's a good draw. Like, I can't be a hypocrite and say, oh, I'm not excited about it. I'm not excited about it, but that was the whole point of finishing top of the group, to get an easier draw. You don't want to get a tough result. You don't want to get a top result, a tough game. We want to get a game that we can get through. I tell you what I would say, and I was speaking to an Arsenal fan today, and they were really, really depressed, and I went, look, would not surprise me if it's an Arsenal-Manchester United final, and it would not surprise me if Wolves, Manchester United and Arsenal get to the semi-finals. Look at the quality of team in the Europa League. I think the Champions League will be won by an English club, and I think the Europa League will be won by an English club again. However bad we are, English football is still the dominant force in world football. So wherever we are, we're still better than a lot of teams in Europe. And I look at who's left in that tournament, and I think there's one fixture where 2 decent teams are playing each other. I think Bayer Leverkusen are playing somebody who's quite good as well, so one of them are going to go. But Inter Milan, well, yeah, but they're Italian, and Italian teams are slower than the Premier League. Roma, there's not that many good teams in the Europa League that are really feared, so I think United have got a really good chance. Gordon Murray says, what is a world-class player to you? World-class player to me is someone who plays at high levels consistently, but players like Pogba at United only have world-class moments that make him world-class. I don't think Paul Pogba is world-class, Gordon. I don't think he is. I think he has the talent to be world class, but I think you've hit the nail on the head there. He isn't consistent enough. I think in the Premier League, your world class players are your Agueros, your De Bruynes, your Manes, your Salahs, your Van Dijks, and I've just gone with the top 2 teams there. Kante obviously is world class, consistently game in, week out, and they're not all. They do have the odd bad game or the odd 7 out of 10. But Manchester United have too many players who they can have an amazing game, but they'll have 3 or 4 games where they're 6 or 5 out of 10, and that's what world class is to me. But Pogba is a world class talent. He just can't find that consistency in a Manchester United shirt, and I wish he could. Matic news today is that he could be going to Inter Milan in January. Merry Christmas. Wrap him up and send him to Santa. I'd be happy about that. Ashley Young may be looking for a new club in January. Good. Off you go. And look, Ashley Young's been a decent servant for Manchester United, and we wish him all the best. But it's time to go. If we are building for the future, it's time to go. Absolutely, it is time for him to go. And I don't necessarily think we need to sign a left back. I mean, look, I think Ben Chilwell's a fantastic left back, and I think he will leave Leicester at some point. It's unfortunate, isn't it? It was Ndidi's birthday today, and he did some funny tweets, and we retweeted it off the United Stand saying, "Come to us, and we'll buy you a birthday cake every day." I would love him to come to Manchester United, but there's numerous players I would like to come to United from Leicester. I would love Maddison, Ndidi, Ben Chilwell. Those 3 would be massively important for Manchester United. But I've got to say this. Although I think Chilwell is better than Luke Shaw, I totally go back to what I said before, that I think that there's nothing wrong with Luke Shaw. I think he's a very, very good player, and I just think people have an agenda against him, and that's just the way it goes, isn't it? That is just the way it goes. Ancelotti will be the new manager of Everton, says Mohamed Fatih. Well, I know he's up there, but it'd be absolutely brilliant signing for them to get Ancelotti in there. I think he'll ultimately fail, because I think Everton ultimately always do fail. But I think Arsenal should have moved for Ancelotti. I think he would have been decent, but they're talking about Arteta. Danny Dring says, move Martial to number 10 and have Haaland up front and Mason on the right, who can change with James, says Danny Dring. Well, I said it today, and look, a few people agreed with me, a few people didn't. So it must be if you say something that divides opinion, you've obviously hit on a good topic point, whether it's right or wrong. And I think with Dan James, we all like Dan James. He's been a really good signing for us, and he's bought into the United way really, really well. But I do think he needs to go on the bench. I think we've probably exhausted him mentally and physically by turning him into a first team player from day one. And I didn't ever expect that to happen. I thought 15 million from the Championship. This season's about getting used to the Premier League and having a few cameos and a few games, and we've just treated him like a first team player. And I just don't think he is at the moment. I think he runs around and he tries hard, but I don't think that chance yesterday when Luke Shaw hit that good shot and Pickford palmed it out and he bloody took Lingard's head off. Look at the angle of where that shot was going. It wasn't going in the top corner. It was going in the Stretford end, and he would have been scoring that in the first month. So I think Dan James almost leads that, not a kick up the backside, that's the wrong word, but just a bit of time on the bench to make him maybe go up a level. I don't think he's playing badly, but I wouldn't be starting him. I think Mason Greenwood should have started yesterday. I don't know how you score 2 goals and get an assist and then not play the next game. It's like you should always reward form. When your players are in or out of form, you've got to reward consistent form. But Martial at number 10, I don't think so. I don't think Martial's a number 10 because I don't think Martial or a James or a Rashford, if you're playing in that number 10 role, you have got to track back. And I think that using the energies of a Martial or a Rashford to track back, you're going to use different positions need different energy levels. And I think you would almost tire a Rashford or a Martial out playing them at number 10 because they're explosive players. And there's a lot of running involved in that number 10 position. Choose 7th in the Premier League and the Europa League win, or 4th in the Premier League and lose the Europa League. I'd take 7th in the Europa League, to be honest. Fred the Red. It's always nice to win a trophy, isn't it? Welcome to United 20, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Gordon Murray says, I understand getting rid of over-the-hill players, but we're already thin and lack depth, so is it a good idea to sell players before buying? I suppose you might be talking about Matic there. Please do smash a like on the video, everybody. Make sure you subscribe if you're new as well. We're getting really close to that 600,000 subscriber mark, which we want to hit before Christmas. So if the United Stand community has been amazing. We only hit 500,000 in July, and we're nearly at 600,000 now. So the growth of this community is amazing. You are absolutely fantastic. You're the drivers of this channel. And as I said, we've got some events next year that we've made a decision over the last week that we did an event in London, and we were going to do an event in Manchester, but we had to cancel it because certain people couldn't be there. But from next year, we're going to try and do 3 events, and none of them will be. They'll all be ticketed, but they'll all be free tickets. So you'll only have to pay to get your hotel or your bus fare or whatever it is. So keep supporting the community. Lots planned for next year, and share the video so that new people come along and subscribe, and we can hit 600,000 subscribers. So please subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and smash a like. Do you know something about from Parma? I can't even announce the name. AFC Mafia. Sorry, no, I don't. And I understand. Yeah, we've read that one. So Dan James starts because he's fast, said somebody there. So was your comment. Greenwood goals per minute played is the highest in the team. Has to play, says Paul Banks. And what do you guys think of loans in January, says Akshay Shastri. Well, I'm doing my Manchester United career mode on Football Manager on Mark Goldbridge That's Football, episode 2 tomorrow night at 7 p.m, before my 8 p.m. show here. And loans are very hard to do when you're a Premier League top 6 club, because no one's going to loan you Asensio or Cavani, are they? So loans are very difficult to do for clubs of the standard of the sort of top clubs in the Premier League. So I don't see a loan to buy, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, Gareth Bale's a loan. To be fair. I think that is a loan that could be done, but I don't think we'll do it. And I would do it. But what worries me, and Pratt Pin says, face it, Martial's overrated. Well, clearly I'm not, because I know he's not overrated. But if you think that, that's yours. That's yours to own. And Pranab, I will take this on board. He says, can you stop predicting United win against the Minnows? We always drop points. Call me superstitious. Pranab, I'm fully aware of it myself. Give yourself a pat on the back. You're absolutely spot on. I've predicted we'd beat Bournemouth, Newcastle, Everton, to name 3, and we've not beat any of them. So for Watford this weekend, I'm going to say already They're going to be well up for it. Nigel Pearson's their new manager. They were defensively good against Liverpool and they only lost 2-0. They're going to be well pumped up for it. They're going to be up for it. I've said that so many times and I think they'll get a point. So there you go. We're going to win. No, I can't even say the words, but you know what I mean, Pranab. We'll definitely won't win against Watford at the weekend. And I would loan midfielders, says James. That brings me back. That brings me back. Speak on Saul Niguez, says Brian Harkness. I will, if I'm wrong on this, remember this video. We will not sign Saul Niguez. It is paper talk. We've been linked to, I think we've already, for the January transfer window, United have been linked to over 50 players. Saul Niguez is one of those players that whoever's running the story is running the story for you to click and read the article. That's no way in a million years is Saul Niguez coming to Manchester United in January, and no way is Paul Pogba leaving Manchester United in January. And you can take that to Santa and put it in his sack because it's not going to happen. Not going to happen in a million years. But I've said this a few times, and I'll say it again. In relation to I'm really enjoying the show tonight. Sometimes you get into the groove of a show, and I'm really enjoying the show tonight. Some really good comments flying in. Do smash a like, do subscribe, keep them coming in because we're in the flow. And Matt Rush is right. I think Saul is ungettable for United. But what I wanted to say is we need a midfielder. I think we all accept that Manchester United need a midfielder. We need a CDM, and we need we need it. You know what? I always say Ollie out and Ricky in, says Shaky Jakey. Yeah, Ricky's good, but he's also wrong about a lot of things as well. And he'll say he's right, but he is wrong. He loves Matic. He's wrong. And he was critical of Martial yesterday, and he's wrong. But he's right, but he's wrong. I think he's wrong. He thinks he's right. Fan opinion, back of the net, yabba dabba do. But my position that I've always said, and a lot of you have said it as well, if I said to you, well, let's do it, but don't know what that was all about, but let's say I want you in 3 letters to tell me what is the priority position according to you for Manchester United. If you can only sign one position, what do you do? And it's a little bit like when people say, if you could bring back one player from United's past, who would you bring back? And I could bring back George Best, I could bring back Ronaldo, I could bring back Dennis Law, I could bring back Bobby Charlton, Scholes, I'd bring back Roy Keane, CDM, because that's the position. CDM is the position I've always said that United need, and Roy Keane is also an amazing leader, but he's also a brilliant centre defensive midfielder. So I would bring Roy Keane back. So for me, the one position I would bring in for United is CDM. However, as Final Frontier has just said, ACM, attacking centre midfielder, the number 10 where Lingard and Mata and Pereira have been playing, is also a priority, and a lot of people are saying it's centre attacking midfield. In fact, it's probably a dead heat between CDM and CAM. Centre attack, not Santa Claus, centre. Irish people will think I'm going Santa. Centre attacking midfielder and centre defensive midfielder. CAM, CDM. And I think you're right, and I think it's always been the CDM. But because Fred and McTominay have been doing quite well, people have wandered towards the CAM, the Lingard, the Mata, and the Pereira position. And also, what I would say is, people will say, "Well, we don't need one. Pogba's like a new signing." I guarantee you, that's what United's plan is. We don't need midfielders because we've got Fred and McTominay, and we've got Pogba back. Yeah, you've got 3 people for 3 positions. If any of them get injured, which they will, you've got no one. So the priority for United in January has to be at least one midfielder. I cannot give you one name for a CDM or a CAM that we are looking at. And that worries me, because United are like a sieve. They've got more leaks than a sieve under a water tap. And we have got no idea, with 2 weeks to go to the January transfer window opening, we've got no idea what midfielders we're looking at. So there's a high chance we're not signing midfielder because we're not linked to anybody. And they are the most important positions. And, I totally agree with his signing Erling Haaland. I think he's great, but I think he'll have the same problems that Martial and Rashford and James have got at the moment. Lack of service. And we're pinning a lot on Paul Pogba. But do you think Pogba's going to come back after 3 months out, be instantly, consistently brilliant and stay fit till May? I can't see it. I can see a secondary injury or I can see inconsistency, and that's not going to help us enough. It'll improve us, but Pogba's been here for 3 years and he's played well half of the time, and he's always picking up injuries. So we've got to buy somebody. We've got to buy somebody, but I don't know who we're looking at. I don't, and I can throw names at you. Bruno Fernandes, but I don't think United are looking at Bruno Fernandes anymore, because I think they'd be embarrassed to go and look at him again, because the deal was there and they walked away from it, so why go back to it? Sean Longstaff, oh God, Declan Rice, but I'm just chucking names out there. Emre Can was obvious, but apparently we're not in for him. We need a number 10 more than a CDM in my opinion, says Tommy B, and I wouldn't disagree with you on that now. I had hoped Angel Gomez would get a chance. I had hoped that Lingard, Mata and Pereira sharing the role might be consistent, but none of them are. So I don't know who that midfielder is going to be. I mean, Matt Rush has just said Christian Eriksen. And look, if we sign Christian Eriksen, of course I'm going to back him. I backed Matic, for God's sake. But I don't think he's the answer. I don't. I think he reminds me of another Alexis Sanchez, who Spurs don't want, who's 28, who's downed his tools a little bit. But he would be creative. He would be creative. Mojo says we need midfielders and Haaland is whom we are linked with. And then he's put an angry face Goldbridge emoji. Which is, yeah, I sort of agree. Isco would be perfect, says Brentley Siddiqui. I mean, we don't have a great... I've got to be honest, in fairness to United. It's funny how we play this number 10 position, because we don't actually have a great history with it. You think about that number 10 position. We've never really been a team that plays with a number 10. You know, the player the conductor. You think about under Sir Alex Ferguson, we never played with a number 10. He did 4-4-2s, he did 4-3-3s, but there was never that number 10 role. Van Gaal tried it. Mourinho sort of flirted with it a bit. Ollie didn't. You know, Ollie's 4-3-3 never had a number 10. It was a holding midfielder and 2 box-to-box with a front 3 that changes around. So we don't have a great history with a number 10. And when we've tried it, I mean, Matt has never really had a good run there. We played him as a winger. Kagawa failed. Mkhitaryan failed. Rooney didn't do brilliantly in that position. I think Rooney always worked better in a front 3. So we've not got a great history with a number 10. The odd thing is now we play with one, but we haven't got one. So Havertz would be perfect. He would be absolutely perfect from Bayer Leverkusen. But I tell you what, if United signs that, cheers. Ed Woodward, whatever. You know, if United bought Havertz in, that would be a sensational signing for United, because he'd just fit that position like a glove. But I don't think we will. I've totally forgotten the call-in. We've been live for. I can't start doing a call in after 50 minutes. We're going to finish in a minute or so. I've totally forgotten the call in. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not sad about that, because the reason we've forgotten about the call in is because you've been so bloody good in the live comments that you've kept the flow of the conversation going. So you absolutely you deserve to applaud yourself and pat yourselves on the back, because you've kept Goldbridge from doing what he was meant to do on this show tonight. We can do it tomorrow night. It's not the end of the world. We'll do it tomorrow night. We'll do it at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Just remind me earlier on tomorrow, because I think we've all enjoyed it though, because I've only just seen one line about the call-in, even though I did mention it at the start. So we'll do it tomorrow night, don't worry. Smutty says he told me 30 minutes ago. Oh, well, I didn't read yours, Smutty. I think I just blank those, but no, I didn't read it, to be fair. We'll do it tomorrow. Please do smash a like on the video. I've thoroughly enjoyed the video tonight. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. Which is funny, because I think as a fan base, I'll leave you with this. Well, I'm not going yet, but we're in the worst position we've been in for years. We've got 25 points. Mourinho had 26 points and got sacked after the same amount of games. I know that Mourinho was a lot further away from the top 4, but that's got a lot to do with. That's not to do with us. We've had a very bad season. If you look at the points that we've dropped, it's been ridiculous. So, but I almost have to have a word with myself as a United fan, and I don't know whether you do as well, because I feel good today. I feel good, and maybe it's because it's Christmas. I don't know, but I don't feel as bad as I have done for a while, and I don't know why that is. And it's not empathy. It's not apathy. It's not lowering of expectations. It's just, I think it's because I know at the end of January we'll know about where we are as a club, and they've either got to turn this into something positive with the January transfer window and results, or we're going to have 6 weeks of what we've had for the last 6 months. And I think that is probably... I know Solskjaer's not getting sacked, even if we lose against Watford and drop more points. He ain't going to get sacked because we're too close to January for them to sack him and abandon what they're going to do in January. And what I would say is this: Solskjaer can lose to Watford, he can lose to Burnley, and he can lose to Arsenal. He could lose 3 of the next 4 and he'll still be in a job in January, because the reason Erling Haaland's coming to United is because of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And if you sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you don't get Erling Haaland. And if you sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you don't get the players that you were looking to get in January either. And Manchester United are run by people who don't understand football. They're not ruthless enough about this coaching setup. And I want to get into this a little bit more, but now is not the time towards the end of the video. But United is a club that is spending too much time on its old boys, ex-players' little routine. There's too many people appointed in that football club who just fall into line because they know somebody, or they're going to fall into Woodward's plan. And there's not enough quality in that football club running right the way through, from owners to chief executive to coaching staff to players. We are not acting like the club that we are, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So we have to live in this moment of hoping. I said this in the summer. This season was all about hope, and that's all we're left with, hope. Which realistically, for a club the size of Manchester United, we should not be relying on a word that Aston Villa are relying on. I hope we can stay up. I hope we can have a good season. Big teams go and get it. As I've said before, big teams go in with the prom queen. They don't come second place. And we won't even come second, I don't think. Do we need to buy 2 centre attacking midfielders to cover injuries, says Anesh Joshi? We do. But at the end of the day, we won't. We probably won't get any, to be fair. But too many yes men, says Paul Gray. Look, I'm not a big fan of Mourinho, but he stood up to the club and got sacked. Players turned on him, the club got rid of him. I felt he was right to be sacked, but personality-wise, he was quite open and honest about the inefficiencies in that football club. And the sad thing is, I speak to a lot of people, and a lot of people who have been involved in the club or are involved in the club, and everybody says the same thing, that Ed Woodward runs that football club with an iron fist, and he is the man at that football club. And there are also, the second thing, there are too many people appointed in that club, because it's like mates race. And this is specifically in relation to the fitness coaching side of things. People have been appointed into that because they know people within the club and they're not good enough, which stands to reason. You know, look at all the muscle injuries. Look at how knackered we've been in the second half of games so many times this season. Well, Manchester United, you should have the best fitness coaches. You should have the best director of football. You should have the best tactical coaches. We don't have any of that. We've just got mates rates and people who fall into line. And you know, the club wouldn't like that if they heard that. But like, we're a fan channel. We've got nothing to gain by talking about tactics and fitness coaches. You know, there might be something to gain by going, Arlie out, get rid of this player, get rid of that player. But we're really going deep here. We're saying that if we had a decent director of football, if we had decent coaches, if we had decent fitness coaches, we would improve as a club, and we should have all that. Why are you employing second-rate people or not employing people at all, like directors of football? This is the depth of knowledge that fans have, the United Stand community has. We're not moaning about bloody agenda players or anything like that. We're talking about the real depth within Manchester United Football Club, real intricate things, because there's real intricate knowledge from the fans. And football fans have only one agenda. They want their club to be the best it can be, with no ulterior motive. But we get swept under the carpet. Oh, they're just moaning. Yeah, we're moaning about your crap fitness coach. We're moaning about your rubbish tactics on corners. We're moaning about your lack of a football director and that we're run by somebody with no football background. Yeah, we're really toxic. We're really high level having a go at a player there, aren't we? When we're talking about intricate, deep, lying level things within the football club that are wrong, because we love the club and we understand the club, and we will go that deep to find why the club's failing. Thanks everyone for watching. Fantastic show. brilliant comments as ever. Smash the like on the video. Drop subscribe if you're new, because we're going for 600k for Christmas. We've only got a week to do it. And I'll be back with you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Flex and Rant show tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It's a good one as well. Daniel Fonis Hansen says 2 centre attacking midfielders, 2 CDMs, 1 right winger, 1 striker, and a partridge in a pear tree. Should sort all our out. No biggie. Hashtag Ed Santa Woodward. Well, let's see what happens in January. I'm not going into it confident. That's not negativity. I went into the summer. The club was telling us that they're going to spend a load of money. They did, but they also net spend was 60 million, which was crap, and they didn't buy midfielders. So I'm hopeful in January. It's that word hope again, but I'm not confident we'll do what we need to do. And as I said before, we need midfielders. Who are we looking at as a midfielder? Speak to you all tomorrow. Have a fantastic evening, and you've been brilliant tonight, every single one of you. Whether you've contributed to the live chats or not, you've been part of the momentum, and I felt it. So thanks everyone. Really, really enjoyed it, and all our moderators as well. And I'll speak to you soon.